y'all. What's going on? Speaking of roadkill, I'm reading Outlander. Alright, that was mean. It's not that bad. It's not that bad, you know? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not. I'm sorry, let me stop. I hate when people do that. Okay, so Diane Garibaldi, that's a fish. She wrote this book. She's an American author, romantic novelist. I was not aware of this when I got into it. I expect a little bit of romance for the schmucks that watch movies and stuff, and like that's what put me on this. Was I saw the series, started watching the series, got to series 3, and I was like, I need to stop watching this so I can read the books, because I feel like I'm missing out on a lot. But it was so good, and turns out you're really not missing out on a lot. There's like, it's very true to the story, but like I was just like, also like, why are they so sexual? Like, there's so much sex, and there's so much like graphic sex, and I was like, are you trying to HBO it? Like, what's going on? And then, yeah, come to find out, I'm reading a freaking stay-at-home mom book. Alright, before we get into it, this is my main criticism of this book, is the character for Claire, the main character. I've come to decide that when dealing with Claire, there's 3 rules. 3. I got dirty hands. 3 rules that apply in every situation to Claire. The first rule is, she's never wrong. She's not wrong, she's never wrong. Second rule is, if she is wrong, she's still less wrong than everyone around her. Meaning, if she gets proven to be incorrect about something, everyone around her is still so morally unjust that she is still justified in her wrongness. And rule number 3, if she does something wrong, which, refer to rule number 1, if she does something wrong, she ends up suffering so greatly by way of what she's out there doing, and by everything going so wrong for her, even though she's morally correct. Remember, she's never wrong. That the punishment is found for her on the road of her misbehaving so badly and so drastically that everybody pretty quickly forgets that she was the reason that it happened in the first place. So all 3 of these rules add up to a big fat Claire never learns anything. She never learns anything. She never learns. She doesn't grow. She doesn't evolve. She doesn't adapt. She doesn't acclimate. She keeps getting shocked by things that she shouldn't be shocked by anymore. Okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. Dude, every time I hit this part of the road, it feels like I got a flat tire. It's freaking frustrating. It's so rude. So the book opens up with Miss Claire. And she is a nurse in 1945. She's an English woman, married to an English man named Frank Randall. So she's Claire Randall. 1945, if you don't remember, was a pretty rough year for everybody. So he's come back from the war. She's come back from serving her country by way of being a medic, like an army medic or a nurse or whatever. Like the real ones, though, like the shoving the guts back inside the body kind of person. So they reunite after 5 years of war, and they're kind of like going on their second honeymoon, reestablishing their relationship, renegotiating their boundaries and terms and everything like that. I went the wrong way, didn't I? Shoot. So they decide to honeymoon in Scotland because before he was in the army, he was a history buff. Just like her father was, or her uncle who took her in. She's an orphan. Her uncle took her in, and he's a history buff. So she's had history poured down her throat since she was a wee lass, if you will. And she's absolutely not concerned with it. She's just like, oh, okay, so you're just really into old stuff? Like, I guess. And it's like, I don't know. It kind of pisses me off because, like, I take it kind of personal. I'm like, what's wrong with people being into old shit? I'm into all the old shit. If it's not old stuff, I'm not into it. It's like, I need old stories, folklore, BCE. That's where I'm at. And, you know, okay, hang on. 3536. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guy. I'm sorry, one guy that watches this. 6. Okay. I'm trying to get my maps up because, like, I'm so bad at navigating in Alabama. Every road looks the freaking same. Okay, I'm good. We're good. Let me stop. Alright. I know it's bad for you. I'm a bad person. I've never pretended to be anything else. Alright, so she's in Scotland doing her honeymoon with her dude, and she's in a town called Inverness or Iverness, something like that. And she's like, she discovers these stones that are like Stonehenge, right? So she goes to this Stonehenge place, and she's like, there's these like old witchy druid ladies that are dancing around at midnight, and she's like, I'm a white woman, I'm gonna inspect. This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life, because I'm a white woman, and this is what we are known to do. See something that looks terrifying? Go check it out. Maybe I can help. So, as a white woman, I'm gonna say that that is 100% true. I often pull over on the side of the road to help stray dogs and roadkill and stuff like that. And I will pull over to look at a really cool object or old house or something. Like, I'm 100% supposed to be haunted and murdered by now. Anyway, she gets sucked into this other world. So she goes there when her husband's not there. There's no witnesses. And she touches the stones while they're buzzing, and she wakes up in 1745, 200 years prior, Scotland, in the same exact location. So it's time travel, not space travel. Actually, I guess it is space travel too later. Anyway, she's surrounded by gunfire, and she's like, what's going on? Oh my gosh. Are they doing like a period piece movie? And it's like, you know, you could tell she's clearly not from the hood. It takes her a while. She's kind of slow on the uptake, and she wanders around trying to kind of find safety, whatever, and she sees this guy that looks exactly like Frank Randall, her husband. And he's wearing a red coat, and she's like, you know, Frank, whatever are you doing, Frank? I'm bad at that. And Frank's like, what's up? You look like a hoe. What are you wearing? Because she's wearing what was normal for... Anyway, she looks like a super hoe. And he's like, bet, I know what to do with you. And she's like, oh no, don't do that. And then a Gaelic guy, Scottish guy, Gaelic's the language, my bad. Scottish guy shows up, bonks her on the head and steals her. Saves her, steals her, whatever. And it's at this point that we are introduced to, in my opinion, the best character in the entire series and storyline and book and everything. Dougal Mackenzie. Dougal freaking Mackenzie. This dude is so badass. He's got a big burly gray beard. He's a silver fox. And he's just constantly grumpy and also like always on. He's ready to go at all times. I love him. He's my favorite. And he's got a Scottish brogue, you ken. So, you know, that's always been my favorite language. So, she meets him. She sets the bones, or she sets the shoulder. This guy's got his arm out of socket. She fixes it, and they're like, oh, you're useful. We'll take you with us. And she's like, what? No. I don't know what's going on. But I've got a whole life behind me over there. I need to go back. They're like, no. So they take her, and Dougal immediately is like, I'm pretty sure she's an English spy. He doesn't care that she's a good healer. He's just like, I'm not letting you go back to them because I think you're an English spy and you might be able to tell us some things that are going on. Because in 1745, this is when England is basically, they've conquered, or they're in the process of conquering Scotland and ending the Highland life, or the Highland way of life. They're trying to completely rule Scotland, and Scotland's rebelling, and so it's a big mess. The guy whose arm she sets is Jamie Fraser, another big Scottish name. The 3 people that I've named are legitimate people in history. It's actually really cool to like Google them, and that's part that I got a lot out of it. So Jamie's got beef with Jonathan Randall, the guy that assaulted her that looks just like her husband. And he tells her the story because like when she's setting his arm and like, touching him, she sees that he's got all these scars on his back, and she's like, bro, what's up with that? And he is like, right. And he goes into this really long, drawn-out story about how he got 200 lashes over the course of 1 week from John Randall, who had come into his home, with the king's consent or whatever, saying it's in the name of the king that I'm coming into your home, raping your sister, and doing all of this. And because he stood up to him, he got his ass beat at Fort William, I think. And the way that this is told, this story is such an important part of the story, because like it gives you a perspective of every character's just worldview. So Dougal tells the story about it in the novel, and he has a very personal, he lays everything out about how everybody felt and reacted and saw things and everything during this time. And then Jamie says it like it's nothing, it's just what happens. Every life sucks right now for everyone, pretty universally. And then Jack Randall later tells her his version of the story, where in his mind it was a love poem. It was like a masterpiece. It was like an art creation. It's also important to note that during this endeavor, like after he had got his back lashed with the cat o' nine tails, the first 100 times, he didn't cry out, he didn't make noise, and that pissed Black Jack, whatever. I get confused about his name, but we'll just call him Randall. That made Randall super, super grumps. And so he was like, all right, I'm gonna beat him again. And the doctor was like, you can't, you'll kill him. He needs a week to recover, which is like worse. And then, so he's like, fine. And then during that week, he sees his dad in the corridor, and Jamie like hugs his dad, and then he goes to see Randall, and Randall's like, hey, if you let me tap it, I'm not gonna beat you. And Jamie was like, I bet that would hurt a lot less, but I hate you and I don't want to make you happy, so I'm gonna take my beating, thank you. And then he takes his beating, and then he's released, or whatever, or he escapes. I can't remember. I think he escapes. Something popped off. Anyway, he's a wanted man is the end result of this. Everywhere he goes, he has to be worried about that. And Randall's definitely like infatuated with him. It's a personal thing for him. So, all right. So she is introduced to Cullum Mackenzie, which is the brother of Dougal, both of which are Jamie's uncles. Cullum is the laird of the little township that she is going to be staying in, and he decides to keep her, partially because she's an English spy, they think, and partially because she's useful for healing. And Cullum he broke both of his legs when he was a kid, and so his legs are all twisted up, and he's in constant pain, and he needs help. So she's useful, and she makes a little living for herself, and she does a pretty good job, and there's a lot of whatever. Then there's this lady who I can't say her name. I can't. It's Laugherty. Lori Lagarty. I'm gonna call her Larry. I can't say it because when I hear them say it, if I said it the way they say it, I can say it. But if I say it the way that I know it's spelt, I can't say it. Because I guess the Scottish are like the Vietnamese of the white world, where they're just like, oh, let's just throw all the nouns and consonants together and say that that's what this is supposed to sound like. That's what this means. Anyway. Larry is in love with Jamie. She's been in love with Jamie since she was like 7. And Claire's like completely uninterested in Jamie. She's hot to trot, but she's also like, I've had crushes and they go away. I'm loyal to my husband. So she's kind of trying to help Larry get with Jamie, but I don't know. He's not that into Larry, but Larry's misunderstanding it because of his kindness or whatever, and he makes out with her a couple times, and then he takes a beating on her behalf because her dad's like, hey, she's being a hoe out here, and I need the king to beat her butt in front of everybody. And the king's like, sure. And then Jamie's like, I'll take the beating. And so Larry's like, oh. That's a side. There's so many side plots. Dougal slowly starts, he has people following Claire and watching everything she does, but he's starting to kind of respect her because he sees that she's not squeamish with blood. Like, he's like, there's something, you've been through some stuff. Like, you've seen some stuff. Like, there's a little bit of warrior in you. And so he's starting to respect her, but he also doesn't trust her. And he's like, all right, we're going to go collect the rents, which is, I guess they go from town to town and collect the rents in the name of the laird. And he's like, you're going to come with me. And she's like, cool, because then I can escape and go back to my stones and go back to my dude, because this place sucks and everybody's rapey. She had tried to escape a couple times, and it never worked out because she's really bad at that stuff. And Jamie helped her out a couple times, and there's a bunch of little side plots that I just don't feel like getting into because they're not really that important to the story. Suffice it to say, Colum really likes Jamie for the throne. Colum couldn't produce an heir, so he had Dougal bang his wife to produce an heir, and it's one of those, like, kind of secret, not secret things. Everybody kind of knows, but nobody's allowed to say. And so he knows that his heir, Hamish, is possibly, it's a questionable, contentious thing that he might be the next leader. So he's like, I want Jamie to be the next, like, regent, you know, like, there to rule while my son grows into the age of ruling if I die. That way, he's got 2 people that he can trust to take over the throne. He does not want Dougal to rule, even though Dougal is super power hungry. That's, like, really the whole point. There's a bunch of little things that explain it, and, like, a bunch of chaotic, dramatic things that happen, but that's essentially it. Also, Dougal kissed Claire, and, like, their chemistry is phenomenal. I don't know what that chick is smoking, but every man she comes in contact with in this series, like, as an actress, I don't know if it's all these men are just perfect, but I don't think they are. Jamie's kind of like the obligatory Channing Tatum-esque pretty boy, and he always just makes the same face, like that, like always grumpy looking. And then Dougal, he has a more vast character in the way that he acts, but he also is written as just a constantly grumpy guy. There's not a whole lot of range that you can develop with that, but he does a good job of it. And then Randall, who's just a textbook psychopath. All 3 of these people's interactions with her feel deep and charismatic. So she's awesome. The actress is awesome. Claire sucks though. She's like, remember Lori from Walking Dead and how everybody hated her? She's kind of like that. Just like, her personality is being an attractive woman with absolutely no foresight. Alright, so she's out. There's like, they all go out on the road, and a bunch of, shenanigans ensue. In the book, she gets to see the water horse, which is the Loch Ness monster type of thing. And they don't have that in the movie. I wish they would have. And then Dougal takes her to go see Randall. She doesn't know that's where he's taking her. She thinks that he's just taking her to the English to return her to what she has told them is her people. She made up a whole backstory for herself. And so he's going to take her there, and she's like, I don't really know how to not go with him. Because, like, I can't run. Because he'll catch me. So I'm going to just ride this out and hope that it works out. So in the novel, that's what happens, is he's taking her to Randall to see what happens, to see whether or not she's a real spy. In the movie, she and him are just having a spat in the middle of the woods alone, and then these English guys show up and try to save her, and she's like, I'm fine, actually. And they're like, cool, come back and show us that you're fine. Come and meet our leader and, like, whatever, who cares? It doesn't matter. The end result's the same. She ends up alone in a room with Randall, who goes in, he mind screws her bad, and he goes into this whole story about him and Jamie, and you know what all happened there, and he does that thing. I kind of like it when actors do that, where they quietly talk while they have tears in their eyes without letting the tears fall, and they have no expression on their face. They're just slowly talking, and they're both sitting there having this talk with these tears in their eyes, and he acts like he's like connecting with her, like he's like, she can save my soul, because that's like the female trope, right? Is like, you know, the power of the P word. It's gonna save all these broken men. That's every freaking movie. You know how long I was in toxic relationships because I really thought that if he wasn't troubled, I couldn't be useful to him? So frustrating. I wish they would just have I don't know, just stop with that. Anyway, romance novels. So they have this connection, and Randall's just like, my lady, I apologize for my assault on you and all of that, and I'm definitely for sure he's not going to do anything bad to you again. In fact, I feel like I owe you a debt, and I'm going to take you to your family. I'm going to take you where you want to go. And she's like, oh, well, thank you. And then he punches her in the stomach. I'm sorry, I was not ready for that, and I died laughing. I was not ready. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Dougal flips out. He pops in, because he was downstairs while she was having this discussion. And he comes in because he's just like, something's off. And he's like, comes in, sees her on the floor, he's like, bet. And he swoops her up, and he's like, y'all don't want to kill me because you're going to start a war with my bro. So you need to let me leave with this hoe. And they're like, fine, but she's wanted for questioning, and she needs to be delivered to Fort William tomorrow. So you have until tomorrow to do what we said to do. And he is like, I don't care. So he's like, okay, that's for sure, let's go. And then he takes her to this water area. So like they leave, and he takes her a long walk to a water stream that smells like brimstone, and he makes her drink from the stream. And she is like, ugh, why does it smell so bad? And then he's like, are you a spy for the English or the French? And she's like, I'm not a freaking spy. And he's like, okay. And then he puts his blade away that she didn't see him have. And she's just like, what are you doing? You're gonna kill me? And he was like, no, not now. I believe you now. And it turns out, like, there's a superstition that the water is water from the depths of hell that collects the souls of liars. And if you drink it and tell a lie, your throat will close up or burn or something. I don't know. So he's like, okay, well, clearly none of that happened, so you're fine. And she's like, okay, now what? And he's like, you gotta marry somebody, because I can take you back to Fort William and give you to Randall, and then you can tell him everything you know, because she's picking up too many clues, and she won't shut the hell up. If she had picked up all these clues and kept her freaking yap shut, she probably would have been fine. But instead, she had to let everybody know what she knew, and she saw that one of the things that they was collecting for the rents, but they were also collecting for the Jacobite cause. And the Jacobites were the Scottish people that were trying to get the other king, Charles. George is the English king, and I feel like King Charles is the other king that the Scottish people are trying to put in place, because they're hoping that this new king will allow them to live with more liberty. Like, that's gonna freaking happen. But she sees that, And she's like, I know what you're doing. And he's like, do you now, spy? So now he's like, you definitely can't go back there. You're going to tell him what I'm doing. And it's a questionable thing of like, does he care about her? Is he protective of her? Or is he simply protecting Scotland? And that's constantly a question with his character. Because a lot of the things that he does is humane, and then a lot of the things he does is purely logistics. So it's kind of fun to try to... So she's like, all right, who am I supposed to marry? You? And he's like, the funniest reaction in the movie. It's hilarious. He's like, what did he say? Not like the thought of grinding your corn wouldn't tickle me. I'm sorry, I did that Irish. That wasn't Scottish. I can't do it. I love the Scottish brogue, though. It's such a good accent. My favorite accent. Out of every accent, it's a Scottish accent. Second by the Saudi Arabian accent, but the Scottish freaking get it. Anyway, he's like, no, you're going to marry Jamie. And in the book, that's when he breaks down the entire whipping situation. Like, Jamie's dad died when he saw him whipped. Stuff like that. Like, he goes into so many things about Jamie's character and how this explains who he's going to be and what kind of a man he is. Anyway, she marries Jamie. I mean, just take a turn then, why don't you? Jeez, ironic. His name is Dodge. He's driving a Dodge. Anyway, that made me so mad just now, the way they drove, that I couldn't get the joke I wanted to say out. And that makes me more mad. She gets married to Jamie, and super, super sex stuff happens. All the sex stuff. Jamie's a virgin, so she gets to do that. He's a younger guy. Anyway, we're gonna skip that. They develop a very strong bond, and they start to fall in love with each other despite everything that's going on. And she and him are also having sex by a river later on. They go to fetch water, and they're having sex, and they get assaulted or accosted by redcoat. They're not the redcoats, though. They're the people that quit their job. What do you call it? Deserters. Redcoat deserters. 3 redcoat deserters come up. They got a gun to Jamie's head, and then they're gonna bang her, and they're all excited about it. And then she stabs one with a knife. I think that's why I can't really get into the book. Like, there's some things, like, they went into her learning how to use a knife for so long, about all of the warriors teaching her how to use it, and it's like, it was so unnecessary. It's like, I don't know, cut a person the way you cut a steak. What are you talking about? But she uses a knife and kills one of them, and then Jamie's able to get the other 2 off, and they both are kind of traumatized by this, and it kind of ruins their relationship with each other for a little bit. Like, they lose the trust, and they lose faith with each other. So when Jamie says later on, he's like, Claire, I need you to stay here while we go on ahead and do something dangerous. I don't remember what it is, but he's like, it's super dangerous, and I don't want you there. I need you to stay here. And she's like, sure. I'm like, your property, right? And it's like, she is constantly like that. Anyway, like, literally get with the times. The times aren't gonna get with you. So she's like, fine. And he leaves, and she's like, I'm out. I see the stones. They're right over there. I'm gonna go. I'm done with all of y'all. She's feeling kind of bad because she really feels for Jamie, but she's like, nah. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, girl, go. Freaking go. This is not what you're supposed to do. And also, do you have any idea how sick she would be going back in time like that? Like, physically ill? Like, do you know the evolution of bacteria and the fact that our immune system is not protected against the type of bacteria that exist during this time with no baths? I mean, it just completely skips it over. It makes it out like because she has her freaking tetanus shot and her smallpox vaccine that she's like immune to stuff, and it's like the exact opposite would be true. Do you think smallpox is bad? You gotta staff up your cooch for the rest of your life. You're gonna die. Anyway, it doesn't even address that, but whatever. So she's like, I'm gonna go. And then as she's about to go to the stones, and she can hear Frank calling her, she gets caught by the redcoats. This cuts back to Frank and what he's going through during this time, and basically the same amount of time is passing in 1945 as is passing in 1745. Like, it's not the same exact, but it's pretty close. And so he's going through weeks and weeks and weeks where his wife has been missing, and everybody's laughing and joking that she ran off with somebody, and he's just like screwed. And then there's, you know, questions about if she was murdered and looking for her body, and he's just having a rough time. He went back to the stones because someone told him about them, and he was like on a last ditch hope. He went to them to see if he could find her there, and he heard her calling through the stones, but then of course because of his grief he's just gonna assume it's boring anyway. So alright, she's on her way back to Jack Randall. Now, the book handled this so funny. There were so many things in the book that actually had me laughing at work. Like, I'm working and welding and I'm snorting into my helmet. Like, it was funny. The movie didn't really have me laughing, but maybe that's my brain. Maybe it was good. I just feel like they missed out on a lot of comedic opportunities. They had, you could tell when something was supposed to be funny, but it wasn't. But the book, yeah. So she reminded me a little bit of Maxine in Jodi Taylor's time traveling books, The Chronicles of St. Mary's. She reminded me of her a lot in the book. So, take that character with you, I guess, when I'm describing this next scene. So, in the novel, she's put into Randall's quarters, or his office, and she's made to wait. And because they're still kind of treating her like a lady, she's allowed to be left alone in his office. She immediately just starts grabbing everything, throwing everything, messing with stuff, screwing up his ink, pouring his ink on all of his pages, drawing the F word and lewd images, and she's got sand all over her she had to swim across the river to get to the stone, so she's all dirty, so she's just like putting sand on his office and stuff, and like going through his personal letters, reading love letters. She goes into his like closet and sees that he's got like a looking glass, wig and a comb, and she takes the wig and like messes it up and puts a bunch of sand in it and pours ink in it or something, and then she takes so now when he comes in, she's got her feet on his desk, she's got the looking glass, and she's doing her hair, and he's just like, and he has this soft composure that he consistently maintains because he's a psychopath. He doesn't allow himself to exhibit emotion. It's a weakness to him. So he's just, as he's trying to continue this verbal sword fighting with her, and they're both trying to play the who's more comfortable and not afraid game. Like, oh, well, if you think that, then you should da-da-da-da-da. Oh, well, if you know, they're doing that. They're just going back and forth, talking mad shit to each other. And every now and then he'll like walk over and discover another thing she did wrong while this is happening, and he just pauses and then continues talking. Man, I was the worst thing. In the vice principal's office, I was putting Post-its on all the windows, under the desks. He had a vent on the ceiling that would suck paper and stuff up. It sucked paper up because if I took a bunch of paper and tore it up and stuck it to the top, it would hold it until the fan turned off. If the air conditioning was good enough, it would turn the fan off, and then it would all fall down. I was the worst, so I related very heavily to what this girl was like. It was great. Shout out to Mr. G. Anyway, so he's finally done. He's like, I'm bored, I'm gonna rape you. And she's like, oh yeah, what would the Duke of Salingsbury, Sandregard? What the heck was it? Hang on, I wrote it down. Sandringham, thank you. What would the Duke of Sandringham say? The reason why she said this was because even though she was not a great supportive wife of her husband's hobby of being a historian, and every time he talked about history, she'd roll her eyes, she still picked up a couple useful things from what he had said. And one of the things that he was saying when he was talking to his buddy about Randall, because he knew that Randall was in his lineage. He doesn't know about all the dirt about him, but he knew Randall was in his lineage, and so he was studying everything he could get his hands on. And he was like, somebody's funding this guy because he's had a lot of complaints brought against him, but nothing happened. And so they're like, I wonder if the Duke of Sandringham, I'll never remember that, if he's funding him and that's what's buying him his not getting in trouble shit. So then she references that to him, and she's just like, you know, you can't do this to me. Like, what would this guy think? And so, like, Randall's kind of put off by that, but he kind of calls her bluff, and then he decides to rape her. And as he's about to rape her, Jamie crawls in the window with a gun, and he's just like, you know, something like I think you to keep your hands off me, wife. And whatever, he saves her. Jamie's super pissed because he told the hoe to stay there, and she didn't stay there. So he's like kind of going off on her a little bit, and she's going off on him back because remember, Claire's never wrong. And if she is wrong, she's less wrong than everyone around her. And even if she's wrong there, what she suffers in the act of doing something wrong is worse than any punishment anyone can inflict on her, and she should just be forgiven. So she learns nothing. So he's like, fine, whatever, you're ripping my guts out. She's like, oh, I'm actually hurting this guy. I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. And he's like, it's fine, I love you. I'm sorry I said what I said. Like, he apologized. Anyway, so they go back to the hotel in the township that they, like, you know, they came to stop in. And none of the guys are talking to her because she almost got all these guys killed because Jamie went to save her, and they're going to help their buddy Jamie. They're not going to let Jamie get killed. So they go and they're like, basically, you could have killed us all. You could have caused us all to die. We had to go into Fort William with almost nothing to defend ourselves and save your dumbass when literally all you have to do is stay still. So she's like, she thanks them and they don't talk to her, and then she goes upstairs and she's like, I'm just sad. I'm so sad. And then Jamie's like, all right, there's one more thing I gotta do. And he takes off his belt to beat her ass. And she's like, what? You barbarian. She keeps doing that. And this is the other thing. In the book, she does this. I don't know if she does this in the movie. I can't remember. In the series. But she takes everything. You know how, like, women do that thing where you open up to them and you tell them. I mean, men do this too. Shitty people, when you open up and tell them something really personal about yourself, something that you are really kind of insecure about or something that hurts you, and then they throw it in your face, like, the second they get a chance. The second you guys are fighting, they're like, oh yeah, that's why your dad is dead, you know, like that. She does that. She's just like, instantly, the worst thing she can think to say to him, to hurt him, and she does it. And he's trying to explain to her, like, this is how it's done. And for me, I'm the same as her. I'm like, oh, I'm out. You can beat my ass. That's fine. You gonna do it once, and then you'll never see me again. I'm out. Super out. Like, I'll kill myself before I let you hit me. I ain't playing with you. You don't know what crazy is until you try to put hands on this. So he does. He beats her ass, and the novel just kind of glances past it. The movie actually handled it a lot better because he had to really kind of grovel and change his entire outlook on life in order to get back in her good graces after doing this. But in the novel, all he has to do is tell her a bunch of sad stories or funny stories or whatever stories about him getting his butt beat growing up, which is like, didn't you just see that you shouldn't open up to this person because she uses it against you later? Like, she's got one in the chamber already. and you're just going to give her more ammunition. This is stupid. But he does. He's like, he tells her all this personal stuff, and like he tries to make it so she relates to him, and then he makes an oath to her, and he's like, I'll never raise my hand against you, whatever. So she's like, okay, well, as long as you said that. And it's like, wait, hang on, let's think about this. How many other things does he think is okay? Are you gonna have that talk, or are we just gonna find out as we go? Are you going to sit there and say, okay, hang on a second, I forgot, we're in a different time, barbarians are real, and I married one, so you think beating my butt is cool with a belt? You think that's normal? What else do you think is normal? I don't know. You have STDs? You be out here in these streets? Do you rape people? Like, what else do you do? Are you good with children? Or are you too good with children? What are you up to? Like, what do you think is normal out here? Because this place was lousy with rape. It was lousy with murder. It was lousy with psychopaths. What did I marry? This would be the time that I would have sat down and been like, let's make a list. Here's all the things I'm not cool with, you know? And let's see what you don't understand about that. And then we're going to decide whether or not this is a marriage or if this is a political thing. You already banged me. The marriage is valid, but you can go out and be a hoe. I don't care. Just don't ever come near me again. Like, I don't know. I'd be having a whole different... She's just like, oh, but I love him. And it's like, yeah, of course, because, you know, Stockholm Syndrome or whatever. And then he also makes rape jokes about how, like, well, you're lucky I didn't just take you that night, because when I fight people, it makes me want to fuck people, and I didn't want to do that to you because you were so fragile and upset. And she's just like, you were going to rape me, and I'm supposed to be grateful that you didn't. And then he does try to rape her. And of course, because in his mind, she's his wife, and you can't rape your wife. And because it's not rape, because she's your property. And she has a whole flip out, but she doesn't even flip out about it in the book. She doesn't even have a reaction to it. She's like mildly upset, but then she's just like, whatever. It's fine. It's like, it's... Diana, you need to call your dad. Diana Gabaldon, you need to call your father and have a talk. I think you haven't talked to your dad in a while. That's just I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's what I got out of that. Anyway, I stopped dealing with tragic men when I started talking to my father again, so that's just my thing. Call your freaking dad. If you don't have a dad, call somebody who's father-like and get their outlook on the world, because you need strong male, whatever. You need Jesus. Okay. I don't remember what happens after this. It's something like, oh, okay. So while she's there and she's happily married, Larry gets pissed that she's married to Jamie, of course, and she starts plotting against her. She starts leaving little witchy things in her bedroom and just being a general creep. And then this chick named Galis Duncan, she is a witchy woman. Like, she's not, but she is. She's playing with fire here. She's like in this time where everybody's afraid of witches. You know, this was, I don't remember when Mary Queen of Scots was the Queen of Scots, but it was before, no, I don't know. It wasn't far away from this time. And she was the one that started being like, okay, because there was a lot of witchy practices and stuff like that back in this time. Like, there was a lot of superstitious stuff. So she was trying to reform Scotland and put it under Catholic rule. And in order to do that, she had to punish by death and torture anybody that practiced any form of witchcraft. And she constituted it as being of the devil. So they be out here in these streets burning witches. And Galis is just like dancing naked under the moon, joking about poisoning her husband, all these things. Like, she is really comfortable. And she gets caught up. So Jamie's like, Alright, look, ho. Claire. I'm gonna go on this hunt with the Duke of Sandringham. And she's like, oh, don't trust him, but I can't tell you why. Okay. And he's like, I'm gonna go on a hunt with him because I gotta find some stuff out. And I'm gonna need you to not be seen with Galis, because shit's about to hit the fan. It's gonna pop off. Don't be with her. And she's like, okay. The first thing she does, I'm gonna go check on my friend. Anyway. Alright, the reason for Galis having stuff happen is because she and Dougal are banging. Dougal's wife just died, and she and him have an affair. They've been having an affair, and she's currently pregnant. And Dougal told Colum that she's pregnant, and Colum said he's going to take care of her. But it was kind of like, how are you going to take care of her? And then she kills her husband when he finds out she's pregnant. Like, he walks in on her being pregnant. They don't explain this in the movie, but in the book, he walks in and sees her pregnant, and she kills him that night with poison in his meals, in his dinner. And so now she's married to a very rich, wealthy husband that has a lot of political pull, and that's what's been protecting her all this time. And now she doesn't have him anymore. So Dougal's out on this hunt with Sandringham and Jamie, and she's just out here alone, just being like, she's just waiting because she knows it's coming. They're gonna come get her, and it's like, I don't know, bitch, run. Anyway, so Claire gets a note saying, come and help, or Larry tells her, come and help. Galis needs your help. Something about the baby, or whatever. And she goes, and then she finds Galis, and she's like, what's wrong? And Galis is like, nothing. Let me be silly and goofy again. And she's like, okay, listen, I gotta go because I'm not supposed to be with you because I don't learn. But you need to get out of here because they're going to come for you. And Galis is like, I don't care. They're not. They wouldn't dare. She's like, no, you don't understand. There's no one here to protect you. You need to go and whatever. And so they come right when Claire's there. So what does Jamie have to do? All right, so there's a trial. It's one of those annoying trials where every single tiny thing has been misconstrued by every other minor character, and everybody's accusing her and nobody lets her speak. And it's just like, don't we all love this? Like, oh my gosh, it's exhausting. I skipped it. But at the end, they're calling her a witch, and they're calling Galis a witch, and they're saying they're both being witchy. And it was supposed to just be Galis, but because she was there, they're like, we don't like her either. She's an English spy, we think, maybe, probably. So in the book, they break down some of the torture methods to see if you're a witch, and it kind of goes into a lot of the history of it, and it's really interesting. They used to have these fake needles that would contract into the pen, like when you do a clicker pencil and then you hold it and stab yourself, but you're not stabbing yourself. They had those to prove that you were a witch, because they say if you stab a witch and they don't bleed. Like, they were some sneaky people. Anyway. So, Jamie comes and saves her at the last minute. It doesn't matter how. And as he's trying to get her out, the mob is still frantic. And they're like ripping at people and stuff. And Galis is like, fuck it. Because she had a talk with her, because she was like, do you actually love Jamie? Do you actually love him? Like, who are you really? And she's just like, yeah, I do actually love Jamie. And she's like, all right, it's going to have to be enough. So Galis is like, I'm a witch. I be out here with the devil, dancing in the moonlight, doing all this witchy stuff. I be putting pox on you, a hex on you. Everybody gets a hex. And she's like, also, I'm pregs. And she rips off her clothes and starts dancing around. And as she's doing this, Claire sees that she has a smallpox vaccine right here on her arm. So she's got that circle scar that you'll see older women, anyone that's probably over 80 years old, you'll see that, or I don't know, I don't even think it's that old, maybe 60, 70 years old, I don't know. But it was back in the 1940s, so they must be pretty old right now. But they all had this vaccine because smallpox was pretty bad. And so she sees that and she's like, you're a time traveler. I missed out on so many opportunities to ask you about the stones and everything I need to know, and you're gonna die now. and I'm out because my dude came and got me. Your dude don't care. So she's gone, and Jamie asks her if she's a witch, because he's like, you've got that mark too. What's up with that? And then she tells him. But because she can't communicate, she has to tell him in the most, like, frustrating way. But she tells him, and he's like, all right, I'm going to take you to the stones, because it's not fair that I'm keeping you here. You belong in your own time with your own people. I get it now. I'm going to take you back. So he does. And me, I don't care if you saved me. You still beat me. You still tried to rape me. Or you did rape me. I don't know. It was kind of gray area. I don't care. I said no. It don't matter. You're not a good partner. You're not a good person. You might be a good person for this time, but bitch, I ain't from this time. And I have different standards. Even for my time, I have too many high standards. But for this time, for surezies, all of y'all crazy. I ain't trying to be here with that. And you clearly can't protect me because I'm an asshole and I don't listen to you. But yeah, it's like the whole thing. It's like they're just not compatible. That's what I got from this. They're not. She's hard-headed. She's headstrong. You tell her to go left, she's gonna go right because she wants her autonomy. She wants to make sure that everyone knows that she's an independent woman. But you're not an independent woman. You rely on the protection of the men from the other men. You need him, so you need to listen to him, and you won't do it. And every time you don't do it, he has to save you from what you caused yourself to go through. And then you're mad at him still. And he's mad at you still. And it's just a fight. And this roller coaster is not conducive to a healthy relationship model. This is one of those, like, you think you're in love, but it's just because you're in danger kind of things. Adrenaline feels the same as butterflies. That's how I've been like, look, can we bang one more time? Because that was pretty nice, but I'm out. She's crazy. So she goes to the stones and she's like about to dip, and he like walks off all sad, and he's like, I love you, goodbye. And she's like, bye. And like in the novel, she tells him everything that she can remember from history to prepare him for stuff that he needs to know. And I don't know. Anyway, so he leaves, and then later on it cuts to her like walking up to him and being like, you know, on your feet, soldier. And then he wakes up and he's like, and she's like, I choose you. I'm gonna stop it there because that pissed me off. I know that I should want her to stay, but my logic, I know I'm not emotionally available. I know I'm practically a freaking rock when it comes to compassionate, empathetic relationship stuff with partners. But this got me so freaking hot. Like, I'm aware that I have a problem, but this exacerbated it. It was like, if this is Twilight, like, it's just Twilight all over again. It's like, you're gonna choose an abusive, freaking toxic relationship over a relationship with a man who was stable with, and like before she even went to the stones, her husband even asked her, he was like, during those 5 years, did you have any kind of flings with anyone? Because I'm amazed with the fact that I love you so much, and this is not even me accusing you of something, this is just me talking about my feelings, that I love you so much that I'm aware that that wouldn't bother me, and that I would have actually expected people to want you. So, like, yeah. Alright, my bad. I love my family. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, they end up together, and he's like, you know, I kind of want to stop it there. I just want to say one scene. I haven't gotten to this part in the book, so that's kind of where I want to stop it there. But there's this one scene in the show where she does this like tour of singing a song, which is like cringe AF. But there's this one scene where she's supposed to be like singing the song to draw Jamie in, anyways. And then she hears that there's a Highlander looking for her because of the song, so she thinks it's Jamie. And she goes to the cave to find what she thinks. She runs into this cave where he's supposed to meet her, and she's like, Jamie, and it's Dougal, and he's like, starting to disappoint you last. And I'm like, it's Dougal. I get so freaking happy anytime I see him. Like, I swear, Dougal's, he's so good. He's such a good character and actor, I feel like they did him a little dirty in the series, because in the novel he's a lot less ambiguous about whether or not he's evil. A lot more ambiguous, I guess you would want to say. And then in the movie he's more crass and gropey and all of that stuff. He's just pretty across the board bad. But in the book, he's got so many good qualities, and he does so many good things, and that it's clearly done from the heart of being a good person, that it makes what happens later more heartbreaking. And it's just, I just wish there was more Dougal. They just need more Dougal. But anyway, I don't know. I don't read romance novels. Not for any real reason. I don't even look down on people that read them, because, like, get what you can. But I just don't enjoy the way that people paint relationships. It just is so unnatural. It feels not natural. It's like when you see someone try to portray what a teenager is like, and it's like, when was the last time you were a teenager? Well, back then that may have been how teenagers were, but now you're going to make them out to be these really weird things that are not what teenagers are like now. It's like that. It's like watching somebody think of what a relationship is like. This chick needs to call her dad. That's all there is to it. She just needs to call her dad. 3 rules of Claire. Claire's always right. When she's not right, she's less wrong than everyone around her. And when she does something wrong, the consequences of her doing something wrong are so bad for her that she is able to escape any further punishment for doing that wrong. So she learns nothing. And she's terrible at communicating. Actually, no. She's great at communicating when she needs to shut up. She's great at doing that. Like, she's sitting there, when she was sitting down with Randall, and she was like, oh yeah, well, I heard you like to whip redheaded boys. And it's like, this is a war, chick. You shouldn't be saying any of this. You shouldn't say any of this. You shouldn't give him any information, any conflict. Maybe that's just me from the hood being like, we never say anything to the police. But, like, don't say anything, because anything you say, it can help him gather information about what you're up to out here. Like, he can find out. So, like, maybe you should just shut up and let him play his cards. And if he beats you, he beats you. But don't tell him anything. At least make him work for it. She just opened up her mouth to be a smart aleck. She'd be doing that. I don't know. It's wild. Did you know the ghillie suit came from, Stop calling me. I don't want to talk to you. Sorry. My phone was... The ghillie suit was developed during this time. And it's made from... The Scottish people were the first to use it. That's the get-up that the army people wear when they're hiding in the jungle or whatever. And it's named after a Scottish wood monster, the ghillie dun or dairn, that was, like, known back in, like, the 1500s. Like, they talked about this forest protector thing that would help lost children in the woods find their way home, and also would kill you if you were hunting in his forest and, like, or doing it in an unethical way. I don't know. I just thought that was funny. That was something I'd be looking up. It wasn't in this book, but this book made me go through and learn stuff. So now I'm in love with Scotland. I'm listening to, like, Scottish songs, Gaelic songs, and bagpipes can get it, and I'm having fun. So it's not without merit. The novel's good. It's not bad. It is good. It's just not what I was ready for. So there's some toxic stuff in there. But, anyway, yeah. Alright. Bye, y'all. I'm out.